Everyone was stunned and filled with worry when a cat, suffering from a broken paw, arrived at a clinic in Turkey. Yet it was the nurse's subsequent actions that left everyone astonished. Nestled in eastern Turkey, a prominent hospital attracted numerous locals seeking medical assistance. Known as the Bitlis Tatton State Hospital, it served as a vital refuge for the injured and ill, catering to the needs of the community in times of distress. The hospital staff radiated kindness and warmth, possessing an innate understanding of how to provide aid to those who sought their assistance. On a seemingly ordinary day, patients flowed in and out, their needs addressed with care. Amidst this routine, Nurse Abuza carried out his duties in a customary manner, unaware of any extraordinary events about to unfold. To begin his day, Nurse Abuza attended to a young man who presented with a widespread rash covering his body. Diligently, he conducted a thorough examination and performed several tests, leading him to conclude that the rash likely stemmed from an adverse reaction to a recently introduced detergent the patient had been using. Assuring the patient, Abuza explained that the condition could be easily treated and would resolve within a few days. He advised the individual to discard the new detergent and revert to using their previous brand, which had proven safe for them. He spent the next half an hour filling out paperwork and updating the man's medical records. That certainly wasn't his favorite part of the job, but it had to be done. Next up into our buzzer's room was a lady with a nasty cut down the length of her leg. She had been in the kitchen cooking and had knocked the carving knife from the work surface. It had fallen, and in doing so, slashed down the length of her leg, causing her to bleed profusely. Nurse Abuza only needed a few moments of examination to conclude that the woman would need stitches to close the wound up, so he went and got his sterile kit. Working quickly and constantly mopping away blood, Nurse Abuza was stitched up the wound, cleaned the lady up, prescribed her some painkillers, and sent her on her way. And again, he spent the next half an hour filling in paperwork and updating records. While these cases might cause you or I some kind of distress, Nurse Abuza had been in the job long enough now to not be faced by it at all. It was just another day, another dollar. Of course, he loved his job and loved to help people, but after several years of doing the same kind of things day in, day out, it all got a little boring and uninteresting. Nothing exciting ever seemed to happen in the hospital until it did. You see, a patient was about to walk through the door that would capture the hearts of everyone in the hospital. As Nurse Abuza was finishing office paperwork, outside his room sat a cat. The small black and white cat had come limping into the hospital through the front doors. It found its way to the clinic and sat itself on a seat in the waiting room. The other people there didn't even notice the small animal until others started to make a bit of a fuss. Why was this little cat there? What was it doing? Well, those who were observant will have seen that the poor little animal was limping badly. As it entered the hospital and found its way to the waiting room, it seems that its front left paw was damaged or injured in some way. Indeed, as it sat there, it held its front left paw up slightly, so it wasn't putting any pressure on it and causing it any more pain. Walking out of the door to call the next patient in, Nurse Abuza suddenly realized that there was a cat sitting on one of the seats. Several of the other patients looked at it curiously. Some found it to be cute and adorable. Others found it to be dirty and unhygienic. One elderly man even tried to swat the cat away with his walking stick until a young woman stopped him. But through it all, the cat just sat there with its paw slightly raised and a sad look in its eyes. Looking around the waiting room, Nurse Abuza saw that he had a lot of people waiting to be seen. The clinic couldn't grind to a halt just because there was a cat there. Maintenance, or someone like that, would surely be along soon to move the animal on. In the meantime, he called in the next patient, who was a boy with a twisted wrist. He had been playing in the park and fell off of a swing, landing heavily on his wrist as he put it out to break his fall. It was a fairly simple fix of painkillers and a sturdy wrist support, but as Nurse Abuza was strapping the support to the whimpering boy's arm, he found that his mind was wandering. You see, Nurse Abuza couldn't stop thinking about the cat that was probably still sitting just outside of his door in the clinic waiting room. Why was it there? Had it just come in to find some shelter and have a rest in the air-conditioned hospital? Was it lost and confused and wandered towards the clinic in some kind of daze, trying to find its way out again? Or maybe there was something genuinely up with it, and the cat had come seeking some kind of help. Nurse Abuza just didn't know, and despite the long list of patients that he had to get through, he was about to do something that surprised even him. Finishing up with the young boy's wrist, he sent him on his way and rushed through his paperwork. Walking over to the door, he pulled it open to see that the little black and white cat was still sitting there, just as it had been before. Nurse Abuza tried to call it into the room, but the cat just sat there looking at him with its big dark eyes. He wasn't sure of what to do. He was a trained nurse, not a vet. He loved animals, obviously, but loving them and treating them were two very different things. Even though he had a pretty good medical knowledge and understood how the body worked, his skill set only applied to humans, not cats. That made the situation all the more stressful for Nurse Abuza, who was unsure of what to do next. There was only one thing for it. He would have to treat the cat like any other patient and give it an examination in order to find out exactly what was wrong with it. Walking over to the cat, Nurse Abuza sat down in the seat next to it. The cat looked at him and let out a soft and quiet meow, as if it were asking for some kind of assistance. Holding its paw aloft in the air, it was clear what the issue was. It seemed that the foot had been trapped or crashed somewhere, causing a lot of damage. The nurse then cautiously picked up the cat and put it on a chair. He softly felt the paw, and while the cat let out a few low and quiet groans, it didn't physically protest to the examination. It's as if it knew that Nurse Abuza was there to help. The other people in the waiting room were shocked at the sight, and several even started to film the proceeding on their phones. It's not every day you get to witness a nurse treating a cat in a hospital. After several moments of examination, the nurse took the cat's broken foot and put it in a splint and wrapped bandages around it. Hopefully, it was enough to hold everything in place until the foot healed. The cat patiently sat and let Nurse Abuza work, even taking a small painkiller when it was offered. After a while, the painkiller kicked in. With a tender meow, the cat showed its fondness for Nurse Abuza, gingerly descending from the chair and limping its way out of the hospital on its bandaged paw. However, this was not the last encounter between the nurse and the feline. Several weeks later, the cat reappeared, seemingly seeking a follow-up. The bandage, although soiled and worn, had managed to fulfill its purpose, protecting and aiding in the cat's recovery. Nurse Abuza's act of assisting a vulnerable and helpless cat not only touched the hearts of everyone in the hospital, but also served as a remarkable display of his compassion and kindness. Now it's your turn. What are your thoughts on this remarkable story? How would you have responded if you had witnessed a frail little cat hobbling into the hospital? Let us know in the comments section. Thank you.